Sometimes gaining knowledge to be an exciting time. We're about to gain some knowledge this morning. Glory to God. Hallelujah to the Lamb of God. Father, we just want to give you praise for this opportunity. Let's pray for this opportunity. We know that your steadfast love never ceases. We know that it is by your mercy and your grace we are here today, and we commit this event into your hands. We know that the plans and the purposes you have for us are good and not of evil, to prosper us and to bring us to an expected end. We know that you planned this event so that people will gain knowledge, people will gain advantage, people will gain insight, people will become better, and people will become make an impact within the society. Father, we just want to thank you and give you praise in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you for all you've done and all you're doing in our lives in the name of Jesus. Thank you, Lord. We bless your holy name in Jesus' name. Okay, guys, good morning. How are we all doing? I hope we're excited for today. It's again important for us to just introduce Crosspoint Innovate. Crosspoint Innovate is an initiative by the Crosspoint Church, which is aimed at empowering youths, entrepreneurs, and professionals that are youth. So we have been, as a ministry, we have grown and seen the importance of empowerment and, giving people or releasing their potential through various things like teachings or trainings like this, and also empowering them with funds. So you get to know more about us. So basically, this is just one of our events where we are training people. It may not just be only youth. I mean, everybody can benefit from this to, understand more about how to expand your business, how to become a better person and become a better individual in your quest towards purpose and destiny. So today is going to be exciting. The topic for today is leveraging innovative strategies for business growth. Leveraging innovative strategies for business growth. I always say this, that a lot of times there are many things that we see, or there are many things that we are praying to God for that comes in the form of an idea. It comes in the form of wisdom. It comes in the form of relationship. It comes in the form of training like this. So sometimes the idea that will change your life is due to a training that you're exposed to, like this kind of training. So what I want you to do right now is to get your notepads or pen and get ready. You can get a coffee beside you. Also try and invite someone else and share this link with someone else. Let them know that we are live. For me, this is quite interesting for me because I also am in business, so I look forward to learning how to, use innovation. If you are not ready to be innovative in this knowledge economy, I don't see how you can actually make so much impact. So let us just set our minds ready and be prepared for a wonderful time this morning. Amen. Glory to God. So somebody else is going to come up and share a little bit about our facilitators and speakers for today. A lot of them have made sacrifices, and these are professionals that are not taking any amount of money, but just giving back by sharing their knowledge. So sometimes I know a lot of times people just say, oh, just give me money. But really, the wisdom is still important at this point in time. So we have professionals that are here with us that are going to enlighten us. But before we do that, one of our committee members is going to come in, and she's going to tell us more about our speakers and what they are going to deliver for us today. So sit tight and invite someone to take us further. God bless you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again to Crosspoint Innovate. We have amazing speakers getting ready to drop it like it's hot this morning, and I am so super excited to hear from them, as I'm sure that you are. Before we invite them, I'd like to take their bio just so we can help to raise your expectations, right? So you know where they're experienced, you know how to put together your questions, and you know for sure that you need to listen attentively. So one of our speakers today is Otega Ogara. Otega Ogara is one of West Africa's leading corporate and strategic communications executive. Otega Ogara's career has spanned international development, financial services, and manufacturing in almost 1.5 decades. Widely regarded and respected as one of the best crisis managers, communication executives in the industry, his commitment to excellence and his exploits in the field of brand marketing and communication speaks for itself. He started his career with the German Agency for International Development, multi-sectoral women empowerment program in Northeast Nigeria as a field officer for HIV and AIDS and reproductive health, managing 5 projects related to HIV and AIDS. He was later to join GT Bank in 2008. His contribution was critical to positioning the bank. His contribution was critical to positioning the bank for the age of youth and digital marketing through initiatives such as Ndani platforms in 2009. At 2004, he became the youngest ever to lead the corporate communications function in the banking industry when he joined Wema Bank, a role in which he successfully led the bank's rebranding program, which he completed in May of 2015. He is currently the group head of corporate communications at one of Africa's largest conglomerate, the BUA Group. We'll have Otega join us very soon. But our first speaker this morning is Ose Osundeko, and I'll go ahead to introduce her. She is an accomplished marketing strategist and leader with over a decade of success elevating profitability, market share, and overall recognition developed digital marketing strategies and high quality content to accelerate brand growth. She drove highly strategic and commercial digital teams in continuous delivery of best-in-class solutions, implementing award-winning digital marketing campaigns. She also spearheaded the innovation and advancement of marketing agenda, leveraging technology and integrated channel solutions attributed to unconventional ways to boost marketing efficiency and customer acquisition. OSE has served instrumental roles in sustainable revenue growth by partnering with multidisciplinary teams and specialists. She transformed marketing to solve business problems while ensuring alignment with corporate missions, visions, and overall objective. And finally, she has built, allocated, retained, and motivated talented teams dedicated to surpassing enterprise objectives through effective application of analysis, uncovering markets, consumers, and industry trend. Let's welcome Osundeko. Pardon. Thank you.
All right. So thank you so much, Titi, for the introduction. As you were reading out, I was like, is this me? I haven't seen this bio before. But thank you, Pastor Ladi, for having me here today. I want to thank the Crosspoint leadership team for the opportunity to be here. So my name is Osa Shindeka, and I'm currently the Group Head of Digital Marketing at Fidelity Bank. I won't bother introducing myself anymore because I only have 30 minutes. I want to make the most of the 30 minutes. But I was given a topic to discuss called leveraging digital marketing for business growth. I've put together quite a detailed slide, and I hope that this can be shared with you afterwards. What I find is that when people come for sessions like this, they leave excited. They've had exciting information and content, but what happens is they really don't know how to practicalize what they've learned. So I've arranged my slides today so it's somewhat like a training. And so I'll just have the first few slides set in context, and then we'll go into some kind of detailed training so that you leave with practical skills that you can implement in your own. So leveraging digital marketing for business growth. Let's look at the landscape of digital in Nigeria. Now, when I see stats, I always ask myself, what is the business implication of the statistics that you're seeing? So in Nigeria, yes, we have over 200 million citizens or people. And then when it comes to internet, we have about 104 internet penetration. Now, when you look at it, people think, oh, we have like 50% of people in Nigeria connected to the internet, but that isn't the case. It's actually, if you look at me, I have two lines, I have Glo, I have MTM. The two of them count as two internet connections. Now, that isn't bad news in itself. When you think about uniqueness, it's about 50 million. But if you look at the geometric progression that we've seen with internet, then you know that there's a lot of opportunity. So around 2014, we had 40 million, and today we have 104 million in terms of connection. So what does that mean? It means that you have larger reach. If you had run campaign a few years ago, you'd see only Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja showing up. But now you have tier 2 states like Oyo, Ogun, Edo State showing up. So you have wider reach. So that's good news. Another good news is that people spend almost 5 hours a day on the internet. Okay? And the internet is a cost-effective way of marketing to people. Now, in terms of the people who spend much time on the internet, they're usually around 18 to 45. Now, I finished university at 20 and I thought, gosh, I'm a genius. I did college, I did uni, 4 years, everything 5 years together. But a few years ago, I worked in a company where a girl finished from Covenant at 18. Now, what is the news in that for businesses? It means that she already had purchasing power at 18. Now, if you look at that age segment of 18 to 45, they are the most productive age segments in any economy. Why? Their parents, whether you want it or not, you spend. The young people, they buy clothes, they go out, they hang out, so they're spending. And so it's very important that business begins to understand the people they're serving online so they know how to serve them best. Also, when you look at e-commerce year on year, within last year and this year, we had over 40% growth. And in terms of value, it's about 4.9 billion. So what it means that the market is growing and you can also have a stake in that. Social media is also growing, and it's so typical when people hear digital marketing that they think it's only social media. But digital marketing is more than social media. So that's just setting the context. Now, if we look at the top digital activity online or top online activity, it's actually visiting social network. So what does it mean? As a business, you need to have a presence on social media. And how are they visiting social media? They're using majorly smartphones. That means on that smartphone, you can reach them on social media, on their emails, on mobile, using Bluetooth marketing, using apps. So you now have a variety of ways of reaching people that cost almost next to nothing, as opposed to having to put out a massive board that will cost you millions a month. So it's very cost effective. So now that we set the context of what digital marketing is like in Nigeria, what really is digital marketing? When people think of digital marketing, they say social media, but digital marketing really is more than that. is literally using digital channels to promote either your products or services to customers if you have a B2C, or business if you're in a B2B business. It has different channels. Yes, we all know social media because that's like our natural language, but it also has email marketing, it has search engine optimization, it has digital display, it has mobile marketing. Now, because I only have 30 minutes to talk today, I'm going to focus on social media marketing. And so I now have a new topic called leveraging social media markets for business growth. And so how do we usually use social media? I remember when I was in uni, when I was rounding up uni around 2005, a lot of people were on social media, and I said that I wasn't going to join social media. Why? People were missing classes. They wanted to know, oh, what happened last night? Who went to one casino? How much was spent? And I just saw people will just get. My father really slaved to be able to pay the school fees. And so I had to report my results at the end of the day. But with time, I found out that, it was a part of our life. We're very communal beings. And so as businesses on social media, people don't want to hear about what you do. They want to be able to relate to you as a personality. So it's very important that, because social media is about, finding out what's happening in one person's life, seeing yourself in another, that businesses have personality. And so it's very important that when you start to do social media marketing, that you have a strategy. Now, how do you have a strategy? I've put together 6 steps. The first one is a situational analysis. I'll go into detail in each and every one of them. The second one is audience profiling. So the people you want to speak to, who are they? What are their likes? What are their preferences? How best do they want to be communicated to? And then the third, which a lot of people bypass, especially with social media, is what is your objective for that platform? What do you want to achieve? Is it sales? Is it awareness? Is it leads that you want to warm up over time? Is it also to network? You need to have clear objectives so you're measuring. And then you need to have a communication strategy. How do you want to communicate with people? And then what channels do you want to use? You don't have to be on all channels. I always tell people, once businesses open, they say be on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and then you find that they're not communicating on those platforms, and it's almost like a waste of space, sorry to say. And then the third one is measurement. You need to measure. I know people who get people to put out content, they're not measuring, so you can't actually say what value social media is bringing to your business. And so situational analysis, what does it really look at? It looks at, how do you measure up? How do you measure up with your competitors? How do you rank? What is your social influence in comparison to your competitor? How is social media seen in your organization? Is it viewed as an essential platform? And how are you able to communicate with your customers in an effective way? So it's just saying, how are you able to leverage industry trends? There's so many tools you can use. I'll leave this behind, but as an organization, we use Social Bakers and we use the enterprise tool. Now, I've just done some practical examples. I'd use cocoa beverage brands, the likes of Milo, Bonvita, So this is just the starting point of your situation analysis. I'm sure a lot of people who do digital marketing, they want to say, this competitor has 1 million and we have 100,000. But these are actually vanity metrics. What do I mean? Having 2 million followers does not literally translate to sales, but it is just for positioning. You're in an industry. If your other competitors are over 1 million and you're around 20,000, you know that there's something wrong. Okay, but it is literally a vanity metric because this does not produce sales. I know a lot of people who have millions of people on social media, but when you look at their engagement rate, it's really very poor. But it's good to look at this because it tells you, okay, your competitors, what platforms are they playing on? Is it Facebook? Is it YouTube? Is it Instagram? Is it Twitter? You want to know, okay, I'm starting. Where do I want to start? Or where am I well versed in and how do I scale up? Okay. So this is just a start, and like I said, this is a vanity matrix. But you need to dig deeper. So you know there are numbers of followers, but what are they doing on the pages, right? It's very important. So we all know Milo. Milo is centered around up until like last week. individual competitiveness. Basketball is very important to them. Ready to drink meals, you know. So that's what Milo is all about. That's their positioning, and they leverage it well. But if you were a brand coming into this space, you need to look at, okay, what is the gap that I could fill? So when we wanted to launch Bonvita, and this was a few years ago, if you remember growing up, we all had Bonvita. And how did we do it? On the table. It was like family time. So Bonvita cannot come and be like Milo and say, okay, we're this sports. No, it's about, you know, coming together as a family. It's about breakfast. It's about giving your kids the right nutrition to start the day on a good note. And so for us, we thought, okay, we had to carve a new niche. So we looked at the different competitors in detail before now getting a niche, which we'll get into in a bit. So looked at it again. I would say when you're reviewing this, review at least a year of the content, because what you find is that what's working today might not necessarily work. And that's why it's very important that you use the insights that you have on these platforms. And so at least a year, you'd see how they've changed their content and evolved over at least 12 months. And so once you've done this and you looked at the content, what you want to do, you want to have a summary of the insights you've gotten and what the opportunities are. Now, these are the opportunities that you want to leverage. So for example, you see that, okay, a lot of brands in that category are centered around the functional benefits, like, oh, the nutrition, how many vitamins in it. You might decide, okay, as a brand that wants to connect with mothers, I might need to do something emotional. Yes, everybody's competing on the number of vitamins, that's a given. But I want mothers to know, see, I understand the struggles of being a mother, especially a mother in a very fast-paced world where you're also a career woman. I understand the need that you want your me time and it's almost impossible for you to get that. I understand that you want to give your children a great start, and that's why we have a product, but more than the products, you know, we're able to support you emotionally also. So that's creating a distinguished and differentiated positioning, and a situation analysis helps you start that building block. And so after you've done your situation analysis, then you want to know, okay, who are these people that you really want to talk to? Who are your target audience? You want to know, you know, what they want. Typically, what we do is that we just look at the ages. Okay, let's look at ages of mothers. We might say that typically around, you know, 25 to 45. But what does age really say? My dad is almost 70 and he has the heart of a 25-year-old. So if you profile him as a typical 70-year-old man, trust me, I'm not sure how you'll be, you know, serving his needs or serving him, and how we'll be able to connect with you to actually use your products. And so beyond just demographics, age, gender, location, you want to know their interests, you want to know their passion points. So I would always say a better measure, right? Your demographics is just a starting point, but a better measure of your target audience is actually the psychographics. Now, what does it mean? What are the passion points? What are the interests? What are the expectations? So you might find that if you had just looked at me as a 25 to 45-year-old, she's a mother, all she does is her kids. I'm more than that. I love sports. I love running. You know, how can you satisfy me with that? I love sharing knowledge. So it's very important that you begin to know, you know, what they like. Can you tell me, okay, you had a long week, you need to relax today. Here are some shows you might want to watch, Grey's Anatomy and all of that. It's like, oh, okay, it's not just a push. These guys really care about me. And so I would say psychographics. Now, how can you get this information, right? We always have information at our fingertips that we take for granted. A lot of us are part of WhatsApp communities. What are the discussions happening? A lot of us are part of forums. What are the discussions happening there? And then these platforms, the native insights on whether it's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's Instagram, that gives you a lot of information. So on Facebook, there's something called Facebook Insights. So you can go and see, okay, your target audience, what kind of pages are they really engaging with? What kind of content are they really engaging with? What is the best time to actually communicate to them? So it's very important in understanding your target audience. Now, even if we're talking digital, it's very okay to also do a focus group to understand your target audience. You feel, you know, you connect with people more emotionally when you do focus groups. So I will always say, yes, you have the data, you have survey, you know, do stuff, focus groups, because what we find is that we generalize. We're in Lagos and we just assume everybody in Nigeria is like us. The northern part of Nigeria is completely different. Even the eastern parts, so I would just say that we live a very cosmopolitan life in Lagos, and there's that tendency to generalize. Focus groups, especially when you touch, the locations of the different target audience, can give you better insights. So it's still okay to do that. Now, if we're taking Bonvita still as the brand that we're reviewing, if you had just look at, okay, you want to serve moms who are 25 to 45, 25-year-old, a 25-year-old mom and a 40-year-old mom, their lives are different, right? So now you need to segment that target audience. And what we did was we did something called Explorer Moms. These are new moms. I need help. I need information. I remember when I had my first child, when he was a hiccup. Oh gosh, Google. I was calling everybody, what's happening? I was looking for information. Now when I had my second child and the child, had hiccups, come on. I was already an experienced mom. I went with the trend, right? I knew what was going to happen. And so it's very important because at different points, you need different content. Now, there will be similar contents, but if I'll take an example of Titi Med's business. She does, how does she? She helps mothers lactate. I hope I'm not misrepresenting the organization. But when I had my first child, I was at home, I was breastfeeding, there was no pressure of storing milk and then going to work because I wasn't working at the time. I was off work for that period. But when I had my second child, the pressure of even going to work with a child less than 2, I had tried to pump, that's how I found the business. But at that point, because I knew I've heard of experiences of people who their kids couldn't lactate, I knew that these things were available. All I did was I just searched and I found her and I started using her products, okay? So I would say that whilst you have a large target segment, do not just lump them. Segment them, know what their needs are, and try and use your communication and your strategy to serve them particularly. Now, I have moved on from raising kids, but if she wanted to carry me on, maybe she has a community of mothers where, I can begin to mentor. It's something that people always want to give back. So it might be that, and I might want to be part of that forum. So she's not losing me. And guess what? I become a brand ambassador for her for free. Have you heard of Milky Express? They are the best, forget it, and stuff like that. So I will always say, know your target audience more intimately than demographic information like age, know their interests, segment them to be able to serve them better. All right, and so how do we know them better? So I've broken this 25 to 45 into 25 to 34 as explorer moms, and then experienced moms as 35 to 45. Now, if you look at them, their touch points, yes, on social media, but there's one thing truly unique in terms of explorer moms are trying out, they're open to trying out new things. When I got married, it was the detergent my mother said use that I used. It was where they said we could buy fresh chicken that I went to buy fresh chicken, right? So I was really, really open. Now, if someone just says, oh, there's another person who sells fresh chicken, come and buy fresh chicken there, it will be hard for me to change because I'm largely stuck in my way. So it takes a lot. I know what I want, and if you can't bring to me exactly how I want it, I wouldn't just move. You need to also know their interests because as a young mom, my career in terms of that, I'm very aspirational. I need a lot of childcare information. I'm a bit more adventurous, as I mentioned, But, as an experienced mom, it's different. I stick to brands that I know help me fulfill my different roles. And that's just it. We might have similar interests in things of childcare, but now I'm more focused on things like investments, building my career, healthy living, relaxation. I cannot come and kill myself. You see these kids, they will do well, but me, myself, I need to do well for myself to be able to do well for them, okay? So that pressure of what we want Anne to say, they would judge me. I didn't come back on time. I missed this. I'm an experienced mom, and it's a different situation, all right? So moving on, the next thing you want to do again, remember, it's very important that you want to put all your information together and get overwhelmed by it. But if you summarize it to the insights and what are the opportunities, implication for your brand, it's just easier. Okay, so what we find is that generally moms are very particular of functional benefits of the products that they give their family. So do I still want to, as a brand, keep on, communicating and fighting on functional basis, or do I want to communicate on an emotional basis, for example? So am I all about the trends to the business leverage trends? So it's very important that you always summarize your insights and you now look at what opportunity is. So we've done the first step, which is what? Situation analysis. I've completed the second step now, which is what? Audience profiling or audience definition, whichever you want to, just getting to know your target audience. And then there are many tools that you can use, many tools. It's listed here. There are many tools you can use. A lot of these tools have free versions, so you can start off with them, and then as your business scales, a lot of money comes, you need more insight, you can scale. Now, these insights, they're very important. So I remember in 2013, I was speaking to Tara, and she had just scaled to another African country at the time. And she was telling me that, and that's Tara Dorothy, the makeup lady. And she was saying that initially, when they wanted to scale, they thought, okay, the best place to scale would be Ghana. It's close by, it's West Africa. But when they checked the insights from their social media pages, they found that apart from Nigeria, the top country that was engaging with their pages was Kenya. And that was how she went to Kenya. So the power of digital is that you have this data, you can iterate. It's not like I've sent it to one TV, and I'm not downplaying the role of TV station, they've queued it. I can literally make an error and just go and edit it immediately. So use the immediacy of the insights that you have at your fingertips. So we're going to the third stage, which is your objectives. Very important. See, marketing is a science as well as much as it is an art. But when it comes to social media, we only focus on, the fun, viral content that we want everybody to share on WhatsApp. Now, that's good. What does that do for you? It gives you top of mind awareness. But there are different kinds of objectives. There's the business objective, for example. Do you want to drive sales? Do you want to drive profits? Do you want to reduce your cost? Or do you want, to generate leads that over time you warm up to be your customers? There's also the audience objective. You want repeat business from them. You want to ensure you're driving satisfaction for them. You also want to get referrals for them. Another one is product objectives. You can use your social media for product research. Just look at the comments on your social media. Yeah, I bought this today, it wasn't good. Oh, your app is not working. It's giving you insights, and these are real-time insights that you can take advantage of. For Bombvita, what we found was that a lot of people stopped drinking Bombvita that we knew growing up because they said it was bitter. It was bitter. So what they did was, okay, we're getting this feedback that Bombvita was bitter. Bombvita was bitter. So what did we do? Every year, they started to change the taste. Now, when you want to change, you don't want your change to be too radical. People always say, oh, we want something new. We like change. But when change comes, it's very hard when it's radical. There's something called change management. So what we did is that every year we started to sweeten the taste. Remember, we already had customers who liked the old taste. So if you had radically just changed it, what would have happened? You would have lost those customers. And so it was gradually done until over, I think, 4 or 5 years. So we got to the level we want to. So if you try Bombvita today, not like I'm selling, not like I work for the organization, you'd see that the taste is different. Then there's another one called brand objective. What personality do you want your brand to be? Do you want it to be youthful? Do you want it to be, an authority in its space? Was it thought leadership? You need to know. And then you have also your marketing objectives, engagement, awareness, conversions. What is it? But the key pillar, and this is just business 101, is that your objectives must be smart. It must be specific. It must be measurable. It must be attainable. And I'm smiling because some people say, oh, they gave me target of $50 billion. How do I get it in the industry I work with? But anyway, it should be attainable. It should be relevant, and it should also be time bound. So I'll give you an example of what, an objective can be. So I think they'll project that on the screen soon. So this can be an objective for a brand like Bombvita on social media. So the communication the objectives can be to drive awareness for Bonvita's improved taste by reaching 50% of females/mothers aged 25 to 45 years on social media platforms while achieving engagement rate of 10% within 33 months. Now, what you see, everything that I had boldened in this slide is literally what is your SMART objective. Who am I trying to reach? Right? I'm trying to reach 25 to 45 women, for 25 to 45-year-olds. Is that specific? Yes. What reach am I trying to get? I want to get a reach percentage of 50%. Is that measurable? Yes, it is. I want to do this within 3 months. Is that attainable? Yes. I mean, at the very worst, I would do promoted ads and be able to reach them. Is it, is it realistic? Is it relevant? Yes. And is it time bound? Yes, I already said 3 months. So when you hire people who are saying they're going to manage your social media pages, they can produce content, set objectives for them, right? I'm putting money. I need to get value for my money as I put in money. So that is the objective. And then we move on to the communication strategy. Now, it's very important that as a brand, you create a personality. And how is your personality it's created in communication? It is, what is the tone of your communication? Very important. What is the look and feel of your social media pages? Is it just an imitation? Is it, something distinctive? What is your page name? What's your handle name? How do you describe it? What is your creative direction for that page? Is it just, your brand colors are white and red and you just splash it everywhere? Remember that colors colors communicates. Okay, so if your brand colors are white and red and you just splash red is danger. So I will be taken off from that page. I don't know about any other person. But on a more serious note, what are your content pillars? Your content pillars are topics of conversations you want to have on your page. And then what's your content schedule? Your content schedule is how many times you want to post, when you want to post. Now, this can change. For Fidelity Bank, for example, before the lockdown, our top engagement days were Friday, Saturday. Now, if we're not looking at our insights, we would have just continued to say, hey, Friday, Saturday. But we found out that since the lockdown happened, our best engagement days are actually Wednesdays and Thursdays. Okay? So it's very important that you take the iterative capacity of digital, always checking what's working why and what's not working why. Now, I'll give you some examples. TomTom. Growing up, TomTom, the only ad at the top of my mind was the zebra stripes, where before you cross, it shows. I mean, now it's not even relevant. Nobody obeys the zebra. Most people don't in Nigeria. So we now looked at, okay, where is TomTom consumed in large quantities? You guys forgive me, I know this is a bit of a church setting, but people smoke. When they smoke, what they do, they pop in a TomTom, right? You can also see at meetings, but at meetings, they're very small quantities, right? So we realized that we needed to own that nightlife. We needed to be a bit more youthful. So the first thing we did was, the look and feel. Rather than having frames that just have white and black stripes, we said, let's play around with the color. So this is the Instagram page from a couple of years ago. And you can see how they cleverly use, black, white, and orange to pop on the Instagram. And very important that your creative direction should actually take into consideration the principle of that platform. People just post anyhow on Instagram. There should be, some visual, direction to it, because it's a very visual platform. Okay, so this is TomTom. We didn't call it the big black and white street. Nobody can relate to that. The next one we decided was, tone of communication. So we wanted to be cool. Who did we get on board? We got Tenny. Tenny was, top, and she's still doing well. And we got Fino because we also knew that we had a market in the East, right? And so we're very strategic in the two people that we got. And they had the song, Tom Tom in your pocket. The beat was, vibing. It's a top producer, but all of a sudden I feel very uncool to actually sing the song. But it was a really vibing song, really good song. You also want it to be adventurous. These guys, they go out, they smoke, they have a night. They don't want people to come and preach to them. You want to be a bit witty. You also want to be determined, because Nigerians are very aspirational. So you want to motivate them to live their best life, to dream their dreams, And you, like you say, you want to be cool. I don't know, my son always says I'm not cool. I think I'm cool, but I guess I'm not cool enough for them. But it's very important that you have that consistent positioning. Anyway, so once you've done that, what are your content pillars? So if we want to own the nightlife, I mean, lifestyle, entertainment, so music, fashion, trends, it's a key part of, the content that was put on TomTom. So it wasn't every time that, oh, TomTom, take it and your throat, gets better. We didn't even use it we'd never even communicated that value that we knew growing up. And so we did personal achievement. We know these guys are young. They want to blow. You see, everybody in Nigeria that is young, they just want to blow, and they want to blow quickly. So we had to, wear that personality, I would say. And of course, brand messages. We leveraged, the brand messages, to drive trial, because at the end of the day, it is a business and we need to make money. Okay. So one thing I would say is, as you put together your content, know that the first 3 seconds are very vital. So for example, Facebook and Instagram, you don't actually pay for the first 3 seconds, but you also can lose people in the first 3 seconds. Now, once your content in the first 3 seconds, if the video, for example, is good, then you get high engagement and stuff like that. Depending on your platform, I'll say at this time, it's standard. It should be eye-catching. It should be different. It shouldn't be, oh, I saw my competitor do this, let me just do it. It should be something that stands out. And just ensure that your video, your content are compelling enough to drive, performance. So this is what a schedule looks like. You can decide, I always tell people, start small. When you have the skill, the resources, then you don't have to post every day. You do not feel pressured about it at all, okay? If you're only able to post once a week, but you can do that consistently, then do that. So when you're starting off, obviously you're trying to see what day works best. You might want to try different days. And then, you can keep changing it because it changes with time. So just to say, okay, these 3 content pillars of lifestyle, entertainment, personal achievements, and brand messages, these are the days and the time we will post. But like I said, leverage current trends, leverage national holidays, and in terms of driving engagement, okay? Don't get too stuck in, it has to be just these 3 days or 2 days. Just leverage the insights that you get in. And so communication channels, should you be on all social media channels? You need to ask yourself, okay, so if you're a cement company, should you be on Instagram? I don't know. I don't think so. I really don't think so. Should you be on Facebook? You can be. You can have a distributors page as a group where people come and share, things the company can do for you. Just get really creative. But it's very important that whatever channel you want to use, the principle of the channel. Now, Instagram, for example, is very fantastic at driving conversations, driving virality, but it also involves you putting out content multiple times, even a day, okay? YouTube, for example, if you want to host videos, you can use it for a landing page. You can use it as, a video portal for entertainment and education. Yes, because when people go to YouTube, if you want to learn something, you go, how do I tie my gilly? How do I change diapers, and stuff. So it's also used for education, which a lot of people just see entertainment. When they're doing their strategy, they forget that they also use it for their education. And YouTube is actually regarded as the 2nd most popular search engine. Facebook is very good for building communities. And you can do that rapidly, especially if you have money for promotion. So check it out. If you look at most brands on social media, the highest following is usually on Facebook, right? Also, if you look at Instagram, very visual. See, if your visuals cannot be standouts, don't be on Instagram. Instagram is where sales are happening. I can't imagine things that I've seen on Instagram and I've actually been a part of it. So it's very important that you know the principle and platform, and then you can have your LinkedIn just for like corporate positioning, awards, for example. You've just raised some new funds and all of that. So know the principles of the platforms before going into it. And then measurement and iteration, very important. Now, if I ask anyone or most people here, they'll probably say that number 1 is to drive the likes and engagement. But how many of us see posts and don't like it? Sometimes I see posts, I don't even want the person to know that I've liked it. So I just take the insight and I move on. Or I don't want to be associated with with the likes of the content. So yesterday night there was I think it's called, is it Gospel Hype? There was some page, and there was this content of a guy who knelt down in the market to, I don't know if anyone saw it, to propose to a girl. And, you know, the girl said no and said something else. So I'd liked it. So I said, Chai, I don't know who will see this thing. I went to go and like it, right? But he has reached me. So what am I driving at? On social media, your number one KPI should be the reach. How many people has this content reached? There are times I actually take polls. I've engaged with it and taken polls, but I haven't liked it. So the number of unique individuals you reach is what you really want. Impressions is a duplication. So if you're saying, oh, I have 5 million impressions, but then when you look at your unique individuals reach is just 500,000, then why am I bragging about my impressions? It's really nothing, right? Engagement, yes, I would say engagement is still, you know, quite a good, you know, KPI to measure. How many people are liking your content, commenting. It's also, it shows how, if your content, the contents are just so good. I don't like to comment on people's pages. I don't like to comment on people's posts. But when it's too good, there are just times that I just have to like. So it shows that, you know, it's really stand out. It really stand out. And next one is you want to know, measure your influence. So how many people, what's your end media? How many people are reposting? You know, how many people are talking about you? So for example, I was going to use one brand, but it's a competitor, so they don't sack me at work. I will move on, but always check your influence. And then your share of voice. So if you look at the overall conversations in your industry, you know, how many do you own? For example, you know, it's very important that you do this continuously. So as I wrap up, hopefully I haven't done more than 30 minutes. I want to leave you with 3 principles. These 3 principles should guide all your digital marketing activities beyond social media. The first one is initiate. In whatever you do, always start with your customers in mind. Always start. Start with serving their needs. Start with getting to know them. Start to know where they are, so you know where you need to be able to serve them. So always initiate. It's a 3I principle from the Digital Marketing Institute in Ireland. And the second one is what? Iterate. Get your learning, find out what's working, why it's working, what's not working, and why it's not working, okay? So you might find that, oh, you're a fashion brand, you know, last year it was pencil skirts. This year it's culottes, you know. Always iterate, you know, always find out what's working and why it's not working. Now, because something did not work now does not mean it would never work, right? And then the other one is also integrate. Integrate doesn't mean that the content I have on Facebook must be exactly the same way. But in terms of your brand message, in terms of the message, communication message you're putting out, there should be a consistency, you know, very important. So you're not causing some form of dissonance in the minds of consumers, okay? So social media is a very iterative process. You have a lot of tools that you can use. A lot of the tools have free versions. Remember the 6 steps when you're putting together your social media strategy. Start with the situation analysis, what's happening in your industry, what your competitors up to, what's the need of your customers that haven't been met. After that, get to know your target audience. It's okay to use focus groups, surveys, the insight from your social media platforms. It's okay to do that, but ensure that you don't just define your target audience based on their age, their location, but you get to know their affinities, their interests, what they really like. You know, after that, have a clear objective. This is what I want to achieve. I'm a new brand. So if you remember when Jumia came, their banners were everywhere. Everyone knew there was Jumia and there was Konga. But now that they have established that presence in Nigeria, what they do, they focus on performance. So you hardly see their ads. You know, how do they do focus on performance marketing? If you go to their platform and you view something, they would chase you with that ad, but they're not just blasting everywhere, oh, we're Jumia, okay? So if you have a clear objective, you're able to measure the value. After that, I would say the next one is your communication strategy. You know, what do you want to communicate? What's the personality you want to have for your brand? So for example, I remember the first Crosspoint Innovate ad that was done. I think Pastor Ladipo was wearing his suit. And when they sent it to me, I was like, okay, I thought we're trying to get to young people, maybe get something a bit more casual. And then the picture was changed because we're clear on the people that we wanted to reach, okay? So very important, know your platform. You might find that, okay, you can be on 4 platforms at once, but also know the resources that you have. Consistency is very important in social media marketing. And then measurement and iteration. Measure, know what's working. If you have a social media page and you're not saying what's the best time people are communicating, who is communicating with you. Now, as a standard, because the largest number of people in the digital space in Nigeria are 18 to 45, I can bet that 80 out of or 90% of the time, you see that your largest target audience are literally 24 to 35, 18 to 24, 35 to 44. And then there's now a big gap where you go to plus 65. Now, people always ask me, if I'm selling insurance or if I have a product targeted at older people, should I be on social media? Yes. Remember I talked about knowing your target audience. So let's take Ribena, for example. Who is the primary target audience for Ribena? Children. Who are the second target audience for? It's parents, particularly mothers, right? So don't say, oh, okay, children are not on social media, I shouldn't really invest so much there. The people who make the purchases, who the children influence who, to a large extent, the purchase that is made. But always ensure that as you define your target audience, you segment them primary, secondary, or if it's a large group, you can segment them further as we've done with Barometer. But measurement is very important. So on this note, I bid you farewell. I wish you very well. And I'm actually happy for any of you to contact me. I'll give a guide. Like I said, I'll leave this presentation. The presentation is a bit more detailed. And I'll be happy to walk you through for free on your social media strategy. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone, once again, and thank you for staying with us. That was such an awesome time on digital marketing with more focus on social media marketing by Ose. And now we're going to be going into leveraging branding for strategies for business growth. We have Otega here. We know that this is going to be another amazing session. Remember that you can send in your questions on the Zoom chat. You can also send in your questions on Instagram. We are going to have a short Q&A session after this to answer all of your questions and all of your concerns. See you at the end of the session.
Good afternoon. Today I'll be talking about leveraging brand growth, brand strategies for business growth. As we all know, branding is at the core of every business. It could be culture, it could be your internal employees, it could be your relationships with clients, it could be your relationships with your partners and all that. But the question is, should brands actually do more to build consumer confidence? That is the key question that we'll try to solve, and then we'll see how and what we can do to move beyond that into strategies that have worked and how we can apply that in our day-to-day businesses. Currently, across the world, you have almost 4.2 million people. That the data there is wrong. It should actually be 4.2 billion people across the world with access to the internet. 4.2 billion people across the world with access to mass media platforms, which are the main places where we use brand strategies to differentiate ourselves. How are we taking advantages of this across Nigeria, across our local markets and international markets? There are 4 things that I think form the bedrock of all these things. Storytelling, what is your brand narrative and what is your brand story? Content, what kind of content do you use to support these narratives? Engagement, how are you using these narratives and contents to engage with your consumers out there, to engage with your internal stakeholders, to engage with external stakeholders, and most importantly, measurement and evaluation. There's nothing that makes sense to do for you to do in branding or marketing or even communications without you measuring and evaluating it at different intervals and over time. Is branding even necessary? That's a question we need to ask ourselves. I mean, I know people that set up businesses and over the course of time, their businesses did well without necessarily having to do any sort of branding activities. If yes, how can we leverage branding and branding strategies in our business? It's very important that we learn some helpful terms to help us know, in case I use any of these terms, to help us know and differentiate what I mean. One is brand positioning. What does your company do? What does your company cater to? And what unique values does your company have? Your brand promise, is there one thing that you decide that you want to deliver on every time? For GT Bank, is innovation in banking services. For a Mercedes-Benz, it's luxury and driving and all that. Your brand personality, what are those traits that illustrate how you as a brand should be known for within and outside the organization? What is your brand story, like I said earlier on? What impacts will your brand have and how does it add value to your brand? And then finally, brand associations. You know, those are those things that a lot of people traditionally know to be called branding, from your logos, your colors, your images. But branding and brand management goes beyond that. Those things that define your brand. And then a very, very thorny question, branding versus marketing. A lot of people conflate these two things. They are subsets of each other. Sometimes we ask, what is branding? Branding is a process where you create strong positive perception of your company, of your product, of your services, in in the consumer's minds. And in doing that, you combine a couple of things together: your logo design, your mission, your vision, and then what kind of theme runs through all your programs, be it marketing, be it PR, be it product design and everything. There must be a central theme that runs through all these things. And then the difference between that and marketing is that marketing is a deliberate effort to actually get these products and services noticed in a positive light. And this could include sometimes advertising and a whole lot of things. You need to identify who your clients are and then find out a way for you to promote it and then move it from channel to channel to get them to buy into your products or services or business, as the case may be. What strategies can you employ in branding? I'll give you a couple of them. One is company name branding. Another one is individual branding. You have attitude branding, which actually goes beyond the regular branding that you see. Your brand extension branding. Sometimes you have a brand and then you want to service a new market, or you want to get more people to buy that same brand. You extend it, maybe creating a cheaper version or a more mass market inclined version. Or it could be anything. And then, but the most important thing is the brand identity remains the same. What people know your brand to be is what a lot of people know your brand to be is what's that central theme and framework that's the extended brand will ride on. You also have a couple of brands doing private label branding. You go into some very big stores and some very big companies, and what do? They take these brands and then they create their own brands. So they own the brands. You go to ShopRite sometimes, you see some of the products they sell there are made and packaged by them. So that's what I mean by private label branding. And then employee branding, which is very, very key. The number one thing that can make or mar any business is the people. People branding, employee branding is as important as any other thing that you do as a brand. If you get that wrong, somewhere down the line, they tend to always have a very, very negative impact on your overall brand. So these are the various areas of branding that you come together to make a brand, from your design to your values, to your strategy, to logos, to marketing, advertising, your brand identity, and finally, trust. Trust is, it happens between you and your executives, you and your team, you and your employees, and then you and your partners, clients, and customers. There are a couple of things to know when you talk of branding your businesses for growth. One, you need to know your core. What is your value proposition as a brand? What is your value proposition for your products and services? What is your mission? What do you seek to do? Without knowing your core, you tend to shoot blanks. What I tend to ask or tell people to do when they're trying to do brand management, to create branding strategies, is simple. What is your bullseye target as a brand? So your brand will likely speak to too many things. It will likely speak to a lot of things in terms of what it can solve. But you, as the owner of the brand, you need to be able to, select that brand and define what the bullseye target of that brand is. What that helps you to do is helps you to focus. And when you focus, you're able to tailor your needs directly to those audiences, directly to that core, and then every other thing is built around it. You need to understand your customers, what are buyer personas and all that. You need to know, so buyer personas are very distinct characteristics of people who are likely to use your brand. So rather than going into the market saying, oh, I want to sell to XX number of people, I want to sell to all Nigerians. Oh, Nigeria has about 120 million phone lines, active phone lines, and I think digital is a very good platform, or is a very good platform to put myself in. You need to define to the very basic, to the very details, what your buyer persona is. Who are the people you're targeting? Put them into, boxes. This person is Ortega, age 35 to maybe 47. These are the kind of things it likes to do. By doing that for each individual buyer group that you expect for your products or services, or even the company itself, you are able to define and streamline whatever, brand strategies that you're pushing towards them. Culture. You need to know your culture. Culture is as important. People say culture is strategy for breakfast. Culture is everything. Strategy, your company, your business, your people, if you don't get the culture right, if you cannot define that culture, if there's no buy-in for that culture from your people, if there's no buy-in for that culture from your clients need to know this is what you stand for, this is what your products stand for, and it needs to permeate every aspect of your brand. Without knowing these things, there's absolutely no way all those things you learn in school about branding and all that will work. And then the final thing is, do your employees and management teams, do they buy into your culture? They must always buy into your culture as an organization. Data, I just put it simply there, data. Data is key and data is king. At every point in time in the life cycle of your brand, you must monitor, you must measure, and you must evaluate every single thing you're doing. You need to ask yourself, as a brand, going out there in the market, let's even take a random product brand, for instance, or a new business. You want to start a business. Before you start a business, it's always advisable to do some research. You need to understand the market. You need to know, I mean, like I said, build your buyer personas and all that. Test those things that you've put in place before you even run. When you start to run, at every point in time, the previous speaker spoke about digital marketing, social media, and all that. Measurement on social media and digital marketing is as important as any other thing you will do, just as it is using your traditional media channels. You must always measure, you must always use data and research to back up whatever it is you're doing. In doing so, it saves you time, it saves you money, it saves you resources. And then you need to know your work. One of the major problems and one of the reasons why a lot of brands fail is that there's a huge disconnect between what they claim to do or what they claim to serve or what they claim to have and the final user experience from people who use the brands. Once that delineation is there, it's very difficult, to break it. So it's very important that you know what you're doing. You know what you're pushing to the marketplace. You know your products in depth. And when I mean you, not just the business owner, every single person in the organization needs to. And then I'll just share some insights for some branding strategies that I've made a whole lot of sense in the past few years. I'll start with Power Oil. I don't know if anyone here knows Power Oil. Power Oil is a Nigerian oil, vegetable oil brand. And prior to when they started, most people will go to the markets to go and buy vegetable oil in kegs and cans. You don't know whether it's groundnut oil that's being sold or sunflower oil or flaxseed oil or bleached palm oil. You just go there and then you buy it. And two things stood out. One, it was extremely unhygienic because you don't know how the oil has been, extracted and stored. And two, there was a lot of adulteration of products in the marketplace. And then what did they decide to do? They decided to come into the markets by putting your oils, something that's been made in a very hygienic environments and putting it in sachets. So, and they started it and they went to the markets with a lot of campaigns. The oil bags were very, very catchy. They did a lot of campaigns, and guess what? Today, they're one of the largest oil brands, vegetable oil brands in Nigeria. That is what branding can do for you. You need to actually understand the marketplace. You need to go back, you need to sit down and think, do I know the needs of my people? Do I even understand the people I'm selling in? Like I said earlier on, buyer personas. And then does my product, my service, or my organization, does it serve the needs of these buyer personas in the real world? If it does, then there's a very high likelihood of you winning. Another brand I will talk about is Nike. I'm sure some of us here know Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick was a football player, and he stood for racial injustice, against racial injustice in America. Over some periods of time, Colin was, pushed out of the league because of his beliefs, even though the league claims it wasn't, but everyone could actually draw those lines. And Nike has always been a brand, right from the Olympics where they sponsored a black man and they did the old black salutes. They've always been a brand that aligned themselves with racial issues and all that, racial equality and all that. And they got Colin Kaepernick to come and do some sort of ads with them where they showed him and what it stood for. If you don't stand for something, I think that when you stand for nothing. And what I did for Nike is Nike's stocks, their stock prices reached an all-time high immediately after that campaign. Beyond that, they also had, for that segment that were selling using that product, they had a 36% growth during that quarter. And then Coca-Cola. Everyone here, most of us have drank Coke in our lifetimes. I used to love Coke very much. But Coke started a campaign, called the Share a Coke campaign. I remember a lot of people, a lot of friends, a lot of family members wanted their names to be on the Coke bottles. You say share a Coke with Bolaji, share a Coke with Otega, share a Coke with a whole lot of people. And what did that do for Coke? By using the various strategies I mentioned above, Coke was able to increase young adult consumption, by 7% in 2011, making it their successful summer ever. And in total, I think they had about 18.3 million, views on their digital campaign that they ran during that period. So I've said something about that, and then I'll go to Boa Group. Prior to 5-6 years ago, Boa Group, where I worked, had always been a very quiet brand. And it is not wrong. You see, when you're branding an organization, you need to understand what is the buyer persona, what are the people, what kind of persona do you want, your personality that you want your brand to have. There's this saying in branding circles that most brands get their DNA from the owner of the business or the founder of the business, or whoever is leading that business. So when you see people who are very, very, what's the word? Who are media shy, the chances are that your brand itself will also be media shy. When you say people who are very boisterous, the chances are that the brands with the lead will also be very boisterous. And then I came in 2016 and we decided to do a couple of things. We looked at the brand personality, we looked at the personality of the person leading the brand, and then we decided, how can we push this brand to the general public without necessarily, taking anything away from the brand DNA. It's a lot of work. It was a lot of work. It's still a lot of work, but we decided that more often than not, we will push our brand story, our corporate brand story first. The brand was strong. The brand had excellent financial fundamentals. We'll keep pushing those stories. We'll keep pushing those brand narratives, and over the time, use it to gain some trust for the mother brand. We aimed a lot of the things we did on our people. So you would say that even in the things we did, the things we pushed out to the general public, you would see a lot of things, the imagery, the videos were all focused on our people. And more than anything, it's also focused on our brand messaging, which was quality and unlocking opportunities for people wherever you are, in whatever you do, and even for our consumers. And then we backed it up, knowing fully well that the most important thing was to win trust over a period of time. We backed this up with a lot of CSR activations. So you see us doing everything from social development to sports, to food, healthcare, community engagement, water and sanitation. And over time, we started building amongst a very niche audience, a very strong brand affinity for Boa Group. Now we've been able to translate that strong affinity from all these little things, subtle things that we did, into huge gains for the organization. And today, Boa is the fourth largest company on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And in terms of returns and all those things, they're doing pretty well. So branding does not necessarily have to be loud. That's the point. That's the reason why I brought Boa into the equation here. It doesn't have to be loud. It has to just be deliberate. The moment you're deliberate about your brand, the moment you're measuring everything you do about your brand, then it is easier for you as a person or you as a brand, to grow. I thought it was very important that we talk about something. The issues of transparency, accountability, and truthfulness. A lot of brands differentiate themselves by one thing: trust. The best brands have a level of trust with consumers, have a level of trust with partners that every other brand doesn't have. So in telling your stories, whilst trying to appeal to all your consumers and everything, you must make it very, very clear. And you must also let it distill through your branding activations that you're very transparent and that you're consistent within everything that is going on. There's a lot of information out there. There's an information overload for people. So how does your brand break through the information overload? It is by employing trust, employing transparency, employing accountability. And then as often as possible, you must be very personable to your consumers. I saw a couple of days ago, someone put up something about something which is very common on social media, which is DM for prices. I've advised a lot of young people who have businesses online, and I tell them it's not a very smart way to build a brand. Chances are that by opening your prices up to people, you are more likely to get, convert your leads into prospects, convert your prospects into leads than those that put DM for prices. One thing people do not also realize is that the use of DM for prices it's a crime according to the laws of Nigeria. You are not allowed to do that. You should let people know what your prices are every time you're selling to them. So I advise for you young business owners, it's very important. You have to be very open to your consumers. Do not keep them guessing. Do not ensure that there are unnecessary bottlenecks to them accessing your service, to them accessing your products, or to them accessing you. Your channels. There will be no branding without channels. These channels could be, what's the word? They could be traditional channels. These channels could be your new media channels. These channels could be digital. But the best brands have found a way to combine omni-channel approaches for whatever it is they do. So you look at the Coca-Cola campaign that I shared online earlier on. Whilst they were on the mass media, your traditional mass media, they were also pushing a lot of things via social media, getting rich, getting people to buy into the campaign. And then you could go into any Coca-Cola depot and actually get a bottle with your name on it. So they found a way to ensure that everything came together, from using QR codes, everything online, your phones, all your screens that were available to you. And I expect that a lot more businesses like ours will look at other channels. Look at what a lot of young people, just like us, the last speaker said, a lot of young people have turned Instagram into one of the most veritable, checkout tools that you have. So you see a marketplace completely on Instagram. Everything from viewing the products up until your checkout process is done there. If you're in certain countries now, you can even make payments via that platform. So you must consider every single device, every single channel, and then tailor your brand's messaging, tailor your brand's narrative, and tailor whatever you're doing for your brand towards those channels. Another thing I would like to talk about is influencers. I see a lot of brands these days wanting to use influencers to push their brands. For some brands, it works. For other brands, the question I ask is, what's the conversion, or how well does using an influencer, what kind of returns are there on using influencers for your brand? You need to understand that the moment you start using endorsement campaigns, you start using influencers for certain things, there's also a higher risk of distrust for your brand. There's also a higher risk of people not agreeing with what it is you're saying. There's also a higher risk of anything affecting the influencer or the person that's endorsed your brand also affecting you. So as a young brand, is there a risk you're willing to put your company through? Is there a risk you're willing to put your product through? And then finally, is it about the publicity, or is it about how much your little advertising dollars, your little marketing spend can convert into actual users for you as a young brand? Those are the key things you need to consider. I'm not going to say influencers are bad, but also consider using micro influencers for a young brand rather than using the big influencers that might cost you a lot and will take you years to recoup your investments. Finally, you have to build a brand. For you to be able to sell any brands comfortably, you need to build a brand. Your employees need to build a brand. They need to breathe it. They need to own it. Your consumers, your clients, they need to be your first line, warriors whenever you're talking about your brand. I'll use Bo as an example again. Recently, we had a major crisis. For the first time, we didn't have to put out any press release to defend ourselves. We had people who had come in contact with that brand. We had people who had been taught by that brand, taking it upon themselves, to defend the brand, to put the real things, the real truth out there. So that is where you want to get yourself as a brand too, because it translates into financial gain, it translates into reputational gain, and then it translates into, most importantly, brand loyalty. And the thing with brand loyalty is it can be transferred from generation to generation. A lot of people, minus those that are truly independent now, still use the same sort of detergents they were using as kids. Some people translated from Omo to Elephant, and then Ariel came in and their family started using it, and they kept on using that. I'm talking of the Nigerian local markets here. And it's the same thing too with a lot of brands. A lot of people have never used any other sugar other than St. Louis, which is one of the smallest sugar brands in Nigeria, but the most popular retail sugar brand. So you need to really understand that without you, your employees, everyone around you, everyone affected by your brand, being that brand, then everything you're doing will come to naught. Thank you very much.
Welcome back, everyone. Now it's time for the question and answer segment. I'm sure that you guys enjoyed both sessions. And right before we start, or as we dive right in, I think that I would like my very first question to go to Tega. Now, during your presentation, you said something about DM for price. And so personally, I find it annoying, right? Because now I have to send you a DM, I have to wait for you to respond, and I have to wait for so many things, which will probably take like 15 to 30 minutes before you get back to me. And if I'm coming online to shop for something, well, maybe because I'm not so much of an impulsive buyer, but I buy when I have need. Right. And so when I have need and I need to buy something, I need to close the transaction as quickly as possible. So I don't like DM for price. But I want you to shed some light on DM for price with regards to it being professional as a salesperson, and also looking at it from the point of view from a person who sells luxury items, right? So do you think that people who sell luxury items should have the prices out there? Do you feel that some people tend to want to gauge the customer before they say how much a price is, especially for items that are commission based, right? So can you just give us a bit of professionalism around DM for price?
So you need two things. I'll start by saying every brand needs to understand the psychology of buyer behavior. And in understanding that, you need to keep it simple, stupid. It has to be simple. Shopping itself might be very interesting for some people. For most people, shopping, it's a very stressful activity. It stresses a lot of people out when they have to make choices. So do you want to put your buyers through that stress, or do you want to cut down the number of steps it takes a buyer from the moment they cite your brand to the moment they make that purchase decision and actually purchase the product? How simple do you want to keep that process? Those who keep it simple, very simple, are more likely to succeed. Now you talk about luxury brands. Probably there's a disconnect. Why is a luxury brand exposing itself to the sort of mass markets where it's not supposed to be in the first instance? So there's a disconnect between the platform the luxury brand is using and whatever the brand is selling. So are you looking for what do you call it? Are you looking for people to just want to know your brand? Are those the people you're targeting if you're truly a luxury brand? So why are you there? Because if you were targeting the right people for your brand, I doubt if they would bother if you put your pricing or whatsoever there. So it's it depends.
Wow, that's very interesting. I never looked at luxury products being, are you on the right platforms? Because the kind of platform that you're on will determine how much information you want to put out there. And it will also determine how easily your buyers or your customers are able to reach you. That's really interesting. Yes, please.
I think, Tega is a guy. So luxury is like Mercedes, BMW. Luxury can be a bespoke dress online, right? So I think that DM for price, if you have a mass product, I sell a water bottle, I sell bags, it wouldn't work. So just put out the prices. Now, if I want to get a dress for my end of year party, I just don't want to even see one. By the time I just see the price like that, just rubbishes it for me. I want the experience. Oh, what size do you wear? How do you want it fitted? For me to buy stuff on Instagram, I'm sure I must be one of the most annoying customers. I ask the details because first, I can't feel it. I can't touch it, right? So it's very important that I have that opportunity to communicate with you. Even if it's black soap, there's this girl I buy Ewami, black soap from. I ask her, okay, how many times can I use it? Does it dry out the skin and stuff? And that the prices are even out there. So that's a commodity product. Now, luxury can just be, like I said, a bespoke dress. And it's okay to be on Instagram to get a bespoke dress. So I think that it depends on your market. A luxurious brand can be on Instagram. I think it's also okay for a luxurious brand because there's meant to be a level of, I can't reach you just like that for luxury. So there has to be a level of try hard to get it for you to appreciate it. So I would just say it's not a one size fits all strategy. And then we should just kind of be open-minded depending on, the product and the segment here.
Okay.
Sorry, before we leave that question, it's also very important that as a brand, you understand that you need to. So for her, she said something about dresses. She said there's certain things she would love to know. So if you're a brand selling dresses and you know you don't want to put those brands, then you need to understand your buyer persona. If you understood that these are the things that your buyers would need, because you've created that buyer persona, then your brand story, everything you're putting out there, would have tried as much as possible to address those things that the buyer needs. And it makes it very easy at the end of the day to actually either choose to either put the same for price or put the prices there. So you need to understand buyer persona, developing a buyer persona is very, very important in creating your customer life cycle for any product or service.
Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for deep diving into that question. So my next question is for Ose. And Ose shared a lot on digital marketing with focus on social media. My first question will be around marketing strategies as well as implementation of the strategies. Now, I feel like digital marketing, to do a great job with digital marketing, I feel like you have to have some level of experience, right? Even though we see a lot of people sell on social media, we find that there are lots of gaps and lapses in terms of their plan or their strategy and even how they execute it. You know, for example, people just take like shoddy pictures, dark pictures, people can't really see the product and just put it online, no caption, nothing, right? So do you think that in order to be successful with digital marketing, one has to have experience or a certain level of experience to be able to put together a strategy and execute that strategy?
Okay, so I mean, the answer is really simple. You should always just want to learn. That's just basically it. I think everybody started at some point, but you always want to learn. Once you have that attitude, you will. Now, this problem you cited is industry-wide. It's not just even for buyers. It's even for professionals, right? So you get people who start a role or start working in the industry. They've done three. I can do this quick PP. You know, I can leave. If I leave, I can be servicing small business. Like I'm making 10 million a month. You guys are paying me 250. I'm off. Now, what you find is that they don't take time to understand the science of it. So I'll give you an example. If I ask everybody now, can you run ads on social media? Yes, it's just watch a YouTube video. In 30 seconds, you'll be running ads. But if you know your objective, and that's why you need to tie in your marketing strategies to your business strategy. I always say, I mean, I think Otega there are two strategies that run every organization. One, your business strategy. The second is your brand strategy. Now, if you're clear of what you want to achieve with your business, as I go into the system to decide, okay, I want to create brand awareness, I will do brand awareness. If I want to drive reach, so my campaign is just about reaching people, then I buy a reach objective. But people just go, select whatever objective, put the amount and start running. So I would say one is just be open to continuous learning, you know, and I'll also say network with people in the industry, right? It's such a fast-paced industry that, you know, I can be sitting here and something has changed, you know. But if I have a good network, we'll chat about it. So be hungry for knowledge and be open to, you know, continuous change, I would say, yeah.
That's really important, being open to continuous change, because you find that with digital marketing, what I've seen is that when you start at the most basic level, in order to grow, you have to continue to do better. And so if you're not learning more, how are you going to do better, right? So it's either you're learning more, you're engaging people who know what they're doing to be able to achieve more. I'll give a good example. So when I started my business, I did everything myself, and I used to run the ads myself. And I eventually had a meeting, maybe about 2 years after, I had a meeting with someone who was who was trying to put together a digital strategy for me. And I was like, oh, I run ads, I run Facebook ads, and I run Instagram ads. And he said to me, okay, so how does the ad perform? And I said, well, I guess it performs well.
People see the ads.
And yes, people see the ads. And he was like, okay, so how do you measure that it does it? I was like, I don't know. People see the ads. So I guess,
No
you know.
negative
So he's
comments.
saying, okay, not exactly. So he's saying, okay, for the amount of money that you have put in, how does it give you the result that you want? And I'm like, I don't know. Exactly, you know. So there's a lot of detail. If you really want to do well, there's a lot of details in it that a lot of us don't know about, and unless you continue to learn, you might find that you're not growing the way you want to grow.
And even as a business, as you scale, right, you realize that doing it by yourself. So you want to have, I mean, when your business grows bigger than the BUA group, you want to have strategic partners. It's happening now. That's why I'm here. I don't want the business that will always be small. I want the business to scale. Yeah. But you need to have strategic partnerships. We have partnerships with Google, Facebook, and that's why we can also continuously learn. They themselves are continuously improving and learning about their platform. And it's okay to outsource, but just ensure, like we said, the right targets are given,
Yes.
And, you were talking about the person who talked about what you're getting. Sometimes what you're getting might not be sales. And that's why you need to be clear on your objective. If I'm a new business, what I want is to build awareness over time. Then I want to instigate trial. I don't just expect, sales might be trickling in, but at that point, it might not be the main focus. So being clear on your objectives helps you with that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. This is, I'm really enjoying this. Okay, so now my next question is going to go to Tega. So Tega, you talked about culture, right? Looking at branding is very important to understand what your culture is, both within the organization, because the culture within the organization always affects the brand and how people see the organization, right? Now, I've heard this saying before that the absence of culture is itself culture. Do you want to break that down for us?
I mean, it's as clear as it is. If there's an absence of a well-defined culture in your organization, whatever people do, the way they interact with the brand and with other people that interact with your brand becomes the de facto culture of the organization. And we sometimes push culture to the end, especially when we're starting our companies and when we're starting new product lines and everything. But you see, more often than not, that always comes back to bite us. I remember the first personal consultancy I started in 2006. The money was coming in. We had contacts, we had connects, as it was called in school back then. And we would always get people to sponsor our events and all that. And I was leaving university that year, and I needed to hand over the organization, the club as it was in school then, to someone else. And at that point was when I realized that this thing was going to fail. Simply because I'd failed, everything was around the course of my personality. I was the face. I knew what I wanted. I knew those things I shouldn't have done. And every other person, around me were just, they were just doing tasks. They couldn't understand, the strategic, reasons why we were doing what we were doing. And then I took the last 3 months in school to we started having meetings every Sunday to actually take them through what we wanted, to take them through why we do these things, to take them through, because the school I went to was quite restrictive with a lot of its rules and everything. So you needed to have a certain level of thinking and a certain level of relationship with the school itself for them to allow a lot of the things we did, from fashion shows to musical events and all those things. And the moment they bought into it, I'm proud to say the club lasted for at least 8 years after I left school, and they kept doing things at that same level. They even surpassed it. And that is what culture can do. You'll see a lot of small businesses. One of the reasons that for a lot of failures in small businesses is customer service. Customer service forms a huge part of our culture, especially for retail brands, of brands that have people interfacing with other people. It is shameful that in this day and age, you still have customer service issues. It's something that should not be acceptable by any brand. It's something that should not be acceptable by anyone, individual or corporate. If you see it, it's a cancer that needs to be cut out, because it erodes your brand little by little. Like it's like a drop of water on a rock. You don't know what's happening until it stares you in the face that, oh, my brand is down the drain. And that is what poor culture and poor planning for culture can cause.
I think that looking at this and talking about customer service, and we see that putting culture into customer service or even branding. I remember that you mentioned something about having to separate the brand BUA and then the owner of the brand, right? Because you found that the business was now growing in the direction of the owner of the brand, and there was a need to separate that. Now, what we find is that, especially when we're working with SMEs, we tend to carry our personalities to become the personality of the organization or the personality of our organization. So for example, you find someone who is very feisty, very impatient, and the person is the one starting the business. So the person is the one running customer service. You know, it's hard to be able to run, for example, a brand that caters to mothers. And you find that mothers tend to be, especially after they've had a baby, they tend to be emotional. They tend to, want someone to connect with them. But you who runs customer service is a very feisty, let's get it going kind of person, right? So you see that gap and you see that disconnect, and you find that, customers or business owners will lose a lot of their customers. So I think it's just important that we remember that we should not make our own personal brand or our own personality become the personality of the brand, right? The brand should have
a caveat though. There is a place for executive profiling in defining your culture and in brand building. I'm not, when I said what I said, I did not mean do it with it completely, but there are things that you can borrow from. There are a lot of these new companies, there are a lot of companies, old and new, whose executives have larger than life, they're larger than life, and personalities over the brand. There are times when it's helpful to borrow from those personalities to help push your brand. Jack Welch was one of the world's biggest, when it came to CEOs or executives at that level, and knowledge, people with knowledge in certain areas, management and everything. It was one of the world's best. There's no reason why his brand would not have leverage on that for business growth. So there's a place and time for it. But even more importantly, you were talking of something else. It's also very important to have structures and processes and systems in place to help guide your brand building, your culture, your employee branding processes, because that is what is very, very important. You said it, I think, during the talk that marketing and branding is as much a science as it is an art. And that is a basic truth. I've never heard it better said. You need to understand and see, as much as you're doing the things that are glamorous, the things that are making you gain awareness and everything, you must codify it into systems, processes, and structures. That way, a lot of things can run automatically with little interference. And then when you monitor and evaluate over time, you can then see if there are areas for improvement or there are things that you need to change. But anyone can come in after that, and it's plug and play once you put systems in place.
Awesome. So putting systems in place, building structures, so important. We're running out of time, but I want to take a question on the screen real quick. The question says, how do you build an amazing brand for a service-based business, say consulting, for example? So do you want to take that? Who wants to take that question?
It's any business. Like I remember I gave 3 principles, right? So first and foremost, I always start with, the consumer. Like, who are the consumers, what they want, what they need, how does your business fit in? Now, I'll first say, if you know your consumer, the next thing is know your industry. How do you create a distinct and differentiated brand? That's the next thing. There's no one fit strategy to say, the first thing you do is how to get your logo. Then after you get your logo, get your colors. Once you know your consumer, you know the kind of colors they vibe with. For example, my presentation slide, if you notice, is lilac. I'm not really a girly girl. I grew up with 2 boys, right? But when I wanted to do it, I took blue. And the guy who was making was like, come on. They didn't even see that you're a woman now. Like, you're wearing trousers all the time. If you want other women to, the guy said that, he said, if you want other women to start to see, like, mentors, leaders, there should be things in you they see. And so we strategically chose that color, Now, he now said, if you were going to be talking to young people, we can't be using, stiff fonts, We now went with Comic Sans, we have 2 fonts that I use. So I knew who I wanted to serve. And then we discussed it. Blue was just, let's just do blue. It's not like blue is my best. Yeah, exactly. It's not like it's my best color. But I knew that in screens, when you have colored screen, if it's not a good quality, lilac can come across. So we had to look at the right gradient and all of that. So I will always say with brands, start with just knowing your customers, and then knowing where you want to scale your brand to. Very important. What is the future? So yes, I know as of today, but what is the future? I mean, he talked about how businesses can survive without even having a brand. I might just want to do a business quick, 1 year, 2 years, I'm going to kill it. I'm not going to spend money branding, right? But if it's something that you just have to know that the point where I've done this thing, and there's no difference between me and my peers. But for me to scale it, I need to be differentiate. And that's where, you now decide to start branding, I would say. I won't say necessarily if you're starting a business today in terms of having a robust brand, because it evolves. As a bank, Fidelity, we're going through a brand refresh now, which we want to launch in September, because we realized that the one we had for the last 5 years can't take us to be the kind of digital bank that we want to be. So I would just say constantly put your eyes on, your customer, your market, and what you want to grow your business to. But I'll let him do the practical stuff.
For a consulting brand, very, very wonderful insights. For a consulting brand, you're a trust and value business more than anything. Your clients need to trust you, and most importantly, you need to be able to add immense value to your clients. And for consulting, as a small scale consulting business, it's very difficult for you to say you want to compete in terms of massive branding or advertising campaigns. No, you can't do that. It's mostly referral based. You do some work for someone, your work speaks for you with another client. And that's always the way you can go with it. Branding can sometimes, it's not necessarily something that you see and feel and touch. It can be very intrinsic. If you said, oh, as a consulting brand, I want to build my brand on being able to deliver at a certain price point that undercuts my competitors, but at the same value or better value, then that automatically becomes a brand. That is what people begin to know you for. And the moment you keep doing that, you do that consistently, there's that consistency there, and you deliberate about it. Over time, even without doing any deliberate branding activities, people begin to know you for that, and they begin to seek you out for that. So I would say, never forget the place of trust, never forget the place of adding value when you're running a consulting business.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. That was definitely an amazing session. I trust that you have learned a lot on branding, on digital marketing, and on even social media. Remember that we're going to have the slides available. If you want the slides, just reach out to us, send an email, or send us a DM on our social media platforms. We'll have the slides sent across to you so that you can take more time, dive very deeply into it. And our facilitators have also agreed to be able to, also he has agreed to be able to guide you if you need any help. So reach out to us and let us know. Thank you so much once again for joining us today on Crosspoint Innovate. Thank you so much, Ose, for coming. And thank you so much, Tega, for coming. Have a great day.
Friends, I believe you had a great time. We surely got, okay. Sorry about that. Um, okay, hi friends. I believe we had a great time. We want to thank our facilitators. I believe that you have learned something. You know, sometimes people might be asking that, oh, I don't have a big business yet, so I don't need all this information. No, I mean, these are seeds of greatness that have been sown, and you'll be surprised. I know of an MD who, you know, employed someone just because of some understanding he had about branding or understanding he had about social media. So I believe it has been very, very impactful. And it's Crosspoint Innovate is an initiative by Crosspoint Church to empower youths and professionals and entrepreneurs to just become the best they can be, because we realize that sometimes people or Christians can be good at church and not necessarily good at life. Okay, so we are just going to present and thank our facilitators. First of all, I want to call on Otega Ogra. He's a good friend of mine. I want to appreciate him for coming. He had to fly down this morning. Really want to say thank you for coming and all you are doing for us. Thank you very much. Cheers. The next person will be Ose. Ose is part of us. Ose has been such a blessing to us at Crosspoint Church. Thank you so much for all you do for the youth. She does a lot of stuff even beyond Crosspoint Innovate. We appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, picture. Great. Okay. All right.
Okay, how do I say? Okay.
Okay then.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Feels strange.
Okay, thanks guys, and catch you guys later.